Valentila Rumendamentiovo. Welcome to Tolkien on Tap of the Northern Skwad. Anyways,
Can we get back
anyways,
to
we're
hate?
yeah, we're gonna do some Cyndaquil hate. We're gonna do a little bit of Cyndaquil hate, and then we're gonna say thanks.
Talk about the badger. We still haven't talked about the badger.
Actually, we did talk about the badger. I fooled you, just so we could talk about the badger more than once.
I didn't get to explain where badger came from.
Okay, so let's say.
Oh, no. Yeah, let's finish the.
Yeah, let's first of all raise a glass to fuck Cyndaquil.
Fuck Cyndaquil.
Fuck Cyndaquil.
Okay, what's Cyndaquil?
Please proceed.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and jump ahead.
The pertinent points.
Yes. So,
by the way, David has things highlighted in specific colors for things he hates about Elwë Cyndaquil.
So, I do need to say this. My hatred for Elwë Cyndaquil is something that was derived distinctly from the text. It was not something that was, premeditated or like I start off wanting to hate him. It is something that, as I read more and more about Tolkien, it came naturally from this, that he's a bastard man.
He's a bastard man. God, I love you so much, David.
So continuing on, the relevant point is this in regards to chapter 13 of the Return of the Ñoldor, that the Ñoldor sent forth. This is page 127 of that same edition. The Ñoldor sent forth messengers far and wide to explore the countries of Beleriand or Valariande in the proper tongue, and to treat with the people that dwelt there. So this is where we get the instance of Elwë Cyndaquil coming back with his bullshit about the Ñoldor only having land that he permits them to have, and the Ñoldor receiving it coldly. Because remember, the Ñoldor basically came over, basically fought off Morgoth, suffered under Morgoth, especially Mighty Morusandol Nelefinwe, and went through torture and imprisonment from him. And so for him to come back and say, oh, you can only have this is the land I permit you, I will allow you to have, despite all this, and despite like all the other Northern Sindar, despite Kiryatan or Círdan's people being saved and succored by the acts of the Ñoldor, him coming to say that, like, dude, what the fuck? Like, we literally just saved y'all's asses. We ain't even here for that. Like, we're not here to colonize you motherfuckers. Like, we're here to basically deal damage to Morgoth. That's what we're about. Like, that's what we're here for. We want the Silmaril spec. We want to defeat Morgoth. And him coming out to say this, as far as like we're here to do that, is despite the fact that we literally sent messengers out to all these lands, and all the other peoples of Valariande or Beleriand at this time were like, oh yeah, we're happy that y'all are here. Like, the fact that they sent messengers, literally sent messengers. If they were about colonizing the rest of Valariande, they would have just came with forces and be like, nah, y'all are working under us now.
Yeah.
Like, if that was the case, they would do that. Because as we see from Mighty Morusandol Nelefinwe's response, like, again, Elwë Cyndaquil only has the power to permit land where he has control over. The rest, basically, everything outside of Lestinore or Doriath, he doesn't have shit to say about because he didn't fight for shit there.
Yeah.
He has,
even though he calls himself King of Beleriand.
Yeah, despite himself, like, for being a king, he doesn't do shit to defend himself. He holds himself up not only behind his wife's girdle, magical girdle, but the girdle of the Ñoldor, because the Ñoldor function as a second girdle for him, because they
hold
fight
on,
Morgoth.
David. That's a really important point that a lot of people don't understand. Let's back that up.
There's another wall of Ñoldor between Doriath. Let's talk about.
Hold on. Let's go. So, what is the Girdle of Melian? For those who do not understand, not understand, but who have not read the Silmarillion, what is the Girdle, Lee?
So
or David, whomever.
No, go ahead.
It's basically a magical barrier that encircles Doriath.
And did that exist before the Noldor came back to Beleriand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
So it did. So when the Noldor came,
so it's kind of simultaneous, because basically what you have going on is the battle that the Sindarin elves fighting Morgoth's forces.
Oh, you're
coming
right.
to face,
right, yeah.
but
The
then
Dagor no Ingiliath.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so you have
I forgot that runs concurrently.
Yeah. So you have that they basically Alois and Nicolo's army gets separated from Círdan's army.
Right.
And so because of that, and is because Alois and Nicolo is trying to go help the Lyquendi or the Green Elves. And so they get separated by the forces of Morgoth, but then eventually they're successful, but they eventually have to establish the girdle, or Melian has to establish the girdle basically to protect them from the forces of Morgoth throughout that time.
Right.
But the Noldor arrived almost concurrently at the same time as that's going on.
I completely forgot that ran concurrently. See, and this is why we do these recorded things, because nobody's perfect. Continue, David.
And so the Feanorians basically diverting a lot of the brunt of the attack from Morgoth's forces. Like, oh no, we're about this shit. Like, we're coming in hot to fight Morgoth. Go in, the passage I read about Cornwall Killigorm basically saving Círdan's forces as well, and allowing basically that distraction for them to not, for Elwes and Nicolo not to face any real damage outside of just, his wife's magical girdle is there. But sorry, let me recompose myself. Basically, Elwes and Nicolo wants to claim kingship over stuff he's not able to defend, but the Noldor are able to defend and are able to push back against the forces of Morgoth 4, which is why Maitimo Rusandol Nedia Finwë says what he says as far as like a king is he that can defend his lands. He's only able to claim land. Like, if it wasn't for the Noldor showing up, they would be dead. That they would have no land. That forces of Morgoth would overrun all this shit if it wasn't for them showing up. And again, combine that with the fact that the Northern Sindar, Círdan and his people, looking to the Noldor as basic, I mean, not to get into like savior worship or anything like that, but kind of looking at them as figures that, oh, you guys came just at our time of need. Like, we respect you. Like, we look to you guys. Like, you guys came from the land of Aman, from the land of the gods. Like, thank you for this. Like, basically, there's deep admiration amongst them, and the text talks about that. The text says that. And the fact that the Noldor literally send emissaries out to all the lands to say, like, hey, let's, almost kind of implying, hey, let's form a union, let's form a coalition so that we can beat the shit out of Morgoth.
Yeah, and the Northern Sindar like quite happily mix with the Noldor.
What we get, so if we have these points, okay, let's retrace the pieces of evidence that we have from the text. The Noldor arrive. The Noldor save not just the Northern Sindar, which the Sindar that the Elwes and Nicolo and the Southern Sindar of Doriath Lesthonore hate. The Noldor save Círdan, also known as Círdan. They admire the Noldor and they look to them and they're happy at their return. Also, we have the fact that the Noldor send emissaries. It specifically and distinctively says that the Noldor send emissaries to all the other regions, so that they can, basically form a coalition.
Yeah.
And to treat with and they sent forth messengers far and wide to explore the countries of Valariande or Beleriand, and to treat with the people that dwelt there. And this is where you have Elwë Sindiculo coming in, saying, "Now, King Elwë Sindiculo, welcome not with the full heart the coming of so many princes in might out of the west, eager for new realms, and he would not open his kingdom, nor remove its girdle of enchantment. For wise was the wisdom of Meliana or Melian. He trusted not that the restraint of Morgoth would endure. Alone of the princes of the Noldor, those of Ardafinwe, whose house were suffered to pass within the confines of Lestinore." So again, from this passage alone, we already see that the Noldor aren't trying to colonize the rest of the people of Valariande and Beleriand.
Can I ask you a question, David?
Sure.
Who was just called wise in that passage? I'm not asking to make a point. I'm asking to double check how I view things.
Meliana or Melian.
Okay. That's all. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go continue.
No worries. And so again, we already have it being established that why would the Noldor, if they were bent on colonizing the rest of the peoples of Valariande and Beleriand, why would they bother sending messengers to treat with the other peoples of Valariande or Beleriand if they were just there simply to colonize them?
Yeah.
And not only that, but we also have evidence.
Are you saying
we also have evidence after the fact that if the Feanorians wanted to colonize the people of Middle Earth, the Feanorians would have done that shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We already know that if they were about that, they would have done that.
Oh yeah.
But again,
for sure.
But even just coming before that, we had the fact that them sending messengers beforehand in order to devise a stronger coalition, a stronger force for that. So then when Elwë Sindiculo responds via Angarato or Angrad that, you're only allowed to have, beware therefore how you princes of the west bear yourselves, for I am the lord of Beleriand or Valariande, and who seek to dwell there shall hear my word into Lestinore or Doriath. None shall come to abide, but only such as I call as guests who seek me in great need. And then it says, now the lords of the Noldor held council in Mithrim, and thither came Angarato out of Doriath or Lestinore, bearing the message of King Sindiculo. Cold seemed its welcome to the Noldor, and the sons of Feanaro were angered at the words. But Maitimo laughed, saying, "A king is he that can hold his own, or else his title is vain. Sindiculo does but grant us lands where his power does not run. Indeed, Lestinore alone would be his realm this day, but for the coming of the Noldor. Therefore, in Lestinore, let him reign, and be glad that he has the sons of Finwë for his neighbors, not the orcs of Morgoth that we found. Elsewhere it shall go as seems good to us." So
Maitimo's correct in everything he does.
So we get from this,
especially after the hand, after losing the hand. That man, that elf does not man. I'm sorry, that was rude. That elf does nothing wrong from the time Findicano cuts him loose.
I mean, he does a little bit, but he regrets it. But he regrets it. But he regrets it,
David.
And he's tortured about himself about it. But
I was trying to bring it back to Arrested Development, like we generally do. It's like always either Sunny or Arrested Development. So it was a slight murder.
Some light treason.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fact still remains is that the Noldor are not hell-bent there being in Valeriande to subject other people to their own rule and reign. So Nicolo, on the other hand, sees them as a threat to his own hegemonic rule and reign and his own hegemonic influence there within Beleriand. That's why he has that response. And the Noldor, I would argue, rightly perceive that, because who the fuck are you? You hold yourself up in your own kingdom while we fought everything and saved all these other peoples who you left behind.
Yeah.
Like, who are you to tell us what to do? And again, Mighty Mo and the Noldor, they don't listen to his rules of what lands they can have based on what Elwes and Nicolo says, but they do so out of their own penance and their own, what's the other word I use?
I feel like they do it more. I feel like they do it more out of the fact that Finwë is related to Elwë, and they don't want to piss off like the.
It's not even that.
I feel like it's more like a dichotomy of like, let's make sure that we can all work together, because Finwë's like, what would that be? His uncle?
So I would argue it's not even because of the Art of Finwë.
Finwë's uncle too.
It's not even because of the Art of Finwë relationship. The reason why the Feanorians go east and take up the main brunt of the assault is, again, kind of Mighty Mo's own act of trying to atone for them burning the ships and leaving larger host behind. So they go to the east and they take up the brunt of the assault because of that. And again, that fits within why they do so. It's not because Elwë it's not because Elwë says that that's where they are allowed to go. It's because, no, this is our way of atoning and making right.
That's where they'd go anyway.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that like Elwë is like making them do that. I'm just saying that like maybe like the relation has a little bit to do with some of that. Not for the Sons of Feanor, obviously, because they're not actually related.
But you mean for the house of the Arafinwëans?
Well, and even Nola Finwë.
Like, well, and Nola Finwë, that the reason why they take the land that they do is because they have the larger host. Remember, it's the larger host that Nola Finwë leads across the Helcaraxe.
Yeah.
And because Lominore or Dorlomin and like the land of Hisilome or Hithlum is a larger land. So they need a larger land for their larger host. So it makes sense for them to take that land that they have, especially when Mighty Mo is saying, hey, as penance or as, atonement for the fucked up shit that our dad did, we're going to take the east and we're going to be the ones that face the brunt of the assault.
Right.
They're at Himring. So that all makes sense, right? It's not because of anything that Elwë and Nicolo, because again, all the Noldor are proud as fuck. Like, let's get that straight. Like, they're
except for Finderato.
No, it says even the house of Finarfin, Finwë, was prideful. But they the princes of the Noldor are prideful.
David, I know what you're doing. I just want to let you know that there are times where I know that my boy has done wrong, and I still want to be like, but he's perfect. And I know that you're right.
I know. I'm just saying.
That's all I was just doing right now.
I'm just saying for the record. I'm just saying for the record.
I know.
Because people will say that.
Listen, the devastation I felt listening to those 2 Tolkien lectures from the Tolkien Society about how Finderato, my precious. Oh, I just said precious. Is he my ring? Finderato, my beloved Ingoldo, Felagund. I listened to the conversations, and from the perspective of women who get mansplained all the time, I listened and I was like, oh, God damn it. He really does do exactly what these women say.
I'll tell you something though, TJ. So like, I guess being like a said woman that gets mansplained all the time, I picked up on that from the first time that I read the Athrobeth, but I still love Finrod. So it's like, you can still do both.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
The
It's
thing,
like you can acknowledge a character's flaws
yeah,
and still love them just as
that's
much.
yeah. So that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like, it took me a little bit to understand. Like, oh damn it, he's not actually perfect. Like, besides the fucking jewel shit, David. I get it. I get it.
I never get over that.
By the way, anybody listening, I will go out of my way to try to make Finrod seem like everything he does is wise, when most of the shit he does is not wise. Um, but David, I get it, and Lee, I get it. The Hokaraxe with this is why I sent you to earlier the picture of the heraldry with a badger on one side and like an icy chest. Like I literally took a picture of a chest of gold and pulled out the background. And like literally, I looked up icicles, and it was like this close to gutters. And I like remove background, auto remove background, and put it on the chest. And I was like, this actually is a really good tattoo. I'm gonna get that tattoo. But no, I get it. I understand Finrod is not perfect. And it took me a long time. Well, not long, because like literally I fell in love with the text like I don't know what, 6 months ago, and like 2 months afterwards, people were like questioning like Finrod, and I was like, what the fuck? And then
It's good though that your reaction to it was like, oh no, I've never seen this perspective on him before. And you then having to come to terms with he's not as perfect as I thought he was, as
yeah,
opposed to going into defensive mode, which a lot of people would do.
I mean like I play defensive mode constantly because like that's fun. Like playing is
Yeah,
fun
but
to
you know
me.
what I mean, like seriously defensive mode where you
Oh
get
no,
like
no, no, no. No,
aggressively defensive,
no. Finrod fucked up.
which is
I'm
a
like, I
thing that
love,
some people would do.
yeah, I love Finrod. I call him Finny. Finny fucked up. Finny fucked up. Like, listen, when you've got a person coming to you going like, hey, someone came around when we like way before like my father's, and he fucked around with us. And so we're terrified of like doing the wrong thing. And I
Mm.
just kind of want to like explain like how we came to you, the Eldar. And you were all like you're beautiful, and we know you know a lot. You've been with the gods. Um, I just kind of want to like talk to you. And in this conversation, one of these people who has lived with the gods goes like, "Well, you don't understand." Like
Mm.
personally, I'd be like, "The fuck?
Yeah.
The fuck you talking
It's
about?
it's
I don't
it's
understand." Like,
it's a
well, of
similar
course,
thing.
yeah.
It's a similar thing. It's what I think that conversation between them two is very similar to the whole thing with the Numenorians later on, and how
Mm-hmm.
the whole gift of men thing to them is they're being told by a race of immortals who will
Mm-hmm.
never have to deal with death that death is great and it's a
Yeah.
gift and they should like it. And
Yeah.
it's like you can see why they're not fully convinced by this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even though we know from like our outside perspective that we in that universe it is a gift,
Yeah.
but they're in that universe, they're being told that by immortals, and I think in that situation Finrod is so certain in what he's saying that he's just he's not even listening to what Andreth's saying to him, and he's not correcting her in the right way. He's just being very dismissive of what she's saying. He speaks he feel when he says stuff to her like don't speak so of things so high
Yeah.
above you,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
makes him sound like such an asshole.
Can I just
And
change my background when we talk about this?
yeah. um and like it doesn't come from a place of malice or anything like that. Like I don't believe there is malice within Finrod,
No, no.
but it's
Like of
you know
all the
it's like you don't
of all
have
the
to mean
Eldar,
it to engage in those behaviors.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
Of all the Eldar, I know that this like, and I'm not trying to like draw comparisons. Like, I'm not trying to say like my favorite is better than your favorite is better than David's favorite. Of all the Eldar, I feel like Finrod truly is just trying to like be. Like, he's just trying to exist and just be happy. And that's not to
and
say that the
yeah,
others aren't. That's not to say the others aren't. But I feel like Finrod is like trying to not be part of the
I mean,
bullshit.
given the guy the nickname Vassal is a bit
Listen, Lee,
messed up.
Lee, I was trying to be really sweet about what I'm saying, and you came
I'm
in like
sorry.
stabbing me in the side.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. By the way,
But
Jesus calls people vassal. God calls people vassal. People call people vassal.
I
Like,
don't think we should start going down that route.
no. Tolkien was a Christian. Let's do this shit.
Vassal or Bond.
Jesus,
Like-
David came in like a fucking like raging drunk. Vassal, or hold on.
Because also
Let me talk to you right
let's
now.
let's get to the fact that just like their father, the Ardafinwayans weren't on the
Are
Northern
we doing
Border.
this? Are we, David?
They were not part of the second girdle like the Feanordians and the Nulafinwayans were.
I think I broke my microphone. Oh no, I fixed it.
So like Findarato basically had his kingdom established not just outside of the second girdle, but south of the second girdle.
David, I would like you to hold that thought for a second because I'm gonna preface this for everyone who does not know us, because I feel like this needs a preface, because I feel like this is about to get really like I'm not gonna be mad. Lee's not gonna be mad. You're not gonna be mad, but people who don't know us won't know this. So,
House of Nulafinway.
we mess with each other all the time because her favorite character, Lee's favorite character, killed a ton of people. Not a ton, like killed some people. Yeah.
Made some light treason.
David's favorite character killed himself because he was not smart enough to. And I'm gonna say this. Hold on, exactly. I'm saying this, and he's gonna be like, "Well, but he didn't know because, like, according to the text, like, yeah."
I mean, he would have sent Rokolor. He would have sent Rokolor back to
David. Hold on.
If he thought he was gonna die. So
David,
I'll just say that.
David. So David is of the belief that Nola Finway was not sure if Morgoth was immortal or not. So he was going to go fight him
because he wasn't,
and hopefully kill him. And yeah, every time I bring up my Fenderato, David's like, "Whoa, the Sindar fucking wrote that shit." So
I defend your Fenderato when people accuse him of wiping out the Pinta Kasari, because I don't believe those are inaccurate texts.
You do, but I have to say this. I have to just hold on. Just let me do this. Because you will come after my boy for the treasure chests, but you will leave your boy alone for like literally going to war with a god.
I mean,
I'm gonna no stop. David, stop.
He wooed them 8 times, and the god was afraid of fighting him. So I mean,
David, stop.
Yeah, Morgoth was fucking afraid of everyone by that point.
Thank you, Lee. But
literally everybody was afraid of Finwë Nola Finwë. The orcs, the Valar Alkar. Nobody wanted that smoke. Not even Morgoth wanted that smoke. But he had to. But he had to come out because he had to save face. That's the only reason Morgoth went and fought Finwë Nola Finwë. The Valar Alkar weren't going to touch him. They weren't about to try and fight him because they knew they'd lose to him. So.
And that's
they know.
That's the interpretation of it.
Hey,
were they told to stand down?
There's a minimum.
Or did they go like, "Oh, this pissant"? Morgoth got it. Don't worry.
They could have overwhelmed him, just like they did Feanaro. They could have overwhelmed him. They could have overwhelmed him just like they did Feanaro. None of them stepped to it.
And if Morgoth had to do it, they'd have done it.
None of them stepped to it.
Say that again, Lee.
If Morgoth had ordered them to do it, they'd have done it, and they would have killed him.
But he didn't.
If they could have overcome Finwë Nola Finwë, they would have.
But they knew they get the shit rocked. That's why. They knew they'd get the way he came.
I'm gonna disagree.
Blazing,
I'm gonna hard disagree. I'm gonna
he
hard
came-
Do
disagree.
you really think
came-
he was that much better than Ecthelion?
Yes.
You think he was that much
most-
better than Feanor?
He is the most valiant. And as far
Do
as
you
like,
think he
as
was
far as,
Oh,
as
anyone
far
can
as
be
far as like,
brave,
as far as
Yeah,
physical,
Valiant, yes.
as far
leading-
as physical stature and bravery, he was the most valiant. He came with the blaze of Orome. He came blazing like outside of Theoden King. He's the only Erohini who is likened to a Valar. Not once, but
does
twice.
that mean Theoden's on the level of Fingolfin?
Time out, everyone, all three of us.
He is
Time
twice
out,
likened.
David, you two, calm down, hold on.
He is
I
twice
love that I
likened
can
to a
tell that
Valar.
all three of us are drunk right now because David is so on this high horse. If you don't know David, by the way, this is David drunk. This is what he does when he's defending Nola Finway to his death. Continue, David.
He is
Because some
likened
people do the same thing, by the way.
twice
I will
to
for
a
Finderato.
likened twice to a Valar. First, when he first arrives in Middle Earth, he is likened to Vana, the wife of Orome.
Wait, whoa, hold on. Didn't you just text me earlier, me and Lee, about how Pangoloth was convinced to write nicely about his uncle Finderato?
Yeah.
So wait, why wouldn't he be able to write nicely about his great uncle Nola Finway? It's only my guy. It's only my guy that gets fucked over, not your guy, right?
I mean, it's up to interpretation. I'll leave that open. However, but if we're going with the text, again, if that's the case,
if we're going with the text, then Finrod is the wisest of the Eldar.
Okay. But then
Right
you don't see how that contradicts when it says that Feanor was the mightiest, despite the fact that he lost to the Valar Alcar, despite Valar Alcar not wanting to fight Finwë Nola Finwë. And Finwë Nola Finwë
fight, or were they told not to?
I'm pretty sure Morgoth would have instructed any of his servants, go and fight this motherfucker. Like, he would have said that regardless.
Where in the text does it say they did not want to fight him?
Fight Finwë Nola Finwë?
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't step.
What? They're still out on the battlefield, though.
But Finwë Nola Finwë went to the gate.
Well, weren't they still on the battlefield?
Challenging.
So they weren't even at Angband. Weren't they still out fighting the Dagor Bragola?
No, because the siege of the Noldor lasted because they were at the gate. The siege of the Noldor lasted at the gate. They were keeping them hemmed inside. So the Valar.
So they were right there at the gate.
Yeah.
But didn't the Balrogs go forward with Glaurung and everything?
Time out.
Nope.
If they're at the gate, time out. They're at the gate, and if somehow Finwë Nola Finwë can walk up to the door and
blow his horn.
No, David. The Balrogs are there, right? And Finway's pissed and walks up, gets off of his fucking horse, unencumbered, and
blows the horn.
And Morgoth came.
He can't.
So
but
what
wait. You're skipping. You're skipping over
what the fucking Valar Alcar are doing at that point.
But you're skipping over the fact that all of the hosts of Morgoth, it specifically states that all the hosts of Morgoth were scared, and the only reason Morgoth came was because he was he'd be afraid and ashamed of looking like a wimp to all of his other servants and thralls. That's the only reason. It says it in the text that the only reason he came was because of that fact, that he didn't want to look weak in front of the others, his servants.
Wait, but aren't you the one who always says that like the Sindar changed it?
Yeah.
Right?
What? Yeah.
Maybe Finwë Nola Finwë got in good with one of the with Daeron. and maybe Dairon was in
I mean,
love with Finwë Nola Finwë.
I mean,
And
if
he
you,
changed the story for him.
if you can present the evidence and a reasonable explanation for that evidence, I am open to hear it.
I love you so much.
I
Literally,
am,
David,
I
no,
am
no, no,
open to
no, no.
hear evidence you have for that. I have not seen that evidence
I love
in
you
my
so much,
readings
David.
of the History of
Specifically
the
because of like when we fuck with each other like this. Except like you know way more than me, and when you fuck with me about Finderato, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And you're over here like, oh, listen, motherfucker.
No, if
Lee,
you,
and Lee
I
is
will,
over here. And David, I want to point out Lee is over here like patiently like, I will swear to God, I will fucking murder these two with my knowledge.
I will say this: if you can present to me ample and reasonable evidence for that, I will gladly listen to it.
Oh, the only evidence I have is that clearly Finwë Nola Finwë was suicidal. And he was like, fuck it, I'm done. My son's dead. Or the one son that I care about is dead.
But you see, that would conflict with it, right? Because painting Finwë Nola Finwë as suicidal would then mean that that the text itself was intentionally trying to paint a picture of him in a negative way, in that of the suicidal attempt, right?
So I've never interpreted it as negative.
So
I don't think he was actually suicidal. I think he knew he was going to die doing it, but I never interpreted it as a negative thing.
So I'm gonna cut us all off here real quick. For those who do not know, Tolkien was a very staunch Catholic, and he understood people could commit suicide, but the people he wanted to continue on his legendarium, like he generally didn't make them commit suicide, except for Turin, which is like a very interesting.
I just want to say, right, because I think there's so much in Tolkien that people assume Tolkien's beliefs based purely on the fact that he was Catholic, and I don't think that's fair, because not every Catholic has the same viewpoints and stuff. And the fact that the characters of his that do commit suicide are not painted in a bad light, like Nienor, Turin, they are not. They are looked at as tragic, and that they're not painted in a bad light. So I don't think we should see the idea of suicide, even written by a Catholic, as a bad thing. So like the thing with Fingolfin is like, I don't mean it in as like, oh, he was suicidal and wanted to end his life, so he went to do it. I see it more of, it was like a, well, if this is how we go down, then I'm going down fighting sort of thing. And I have never once thought of it with negative connotations. I've always thought of it as a brave thing, as like a last stand, a kind of like, if I'm going down, then I'll make sure you fucking remember me sort of thing.
By the way,
I held him in very high regard for. Like, I've never ever intended that as a negative thing when they say the whole like suicide inverted commas thing.
And by the way, everyone who doesn't know, like literally the three of us fuck with each other all the time. Like I'm constantly getting shit about Finrod. We kind of leave Lee alone, because she honestly, like, for me, she knows more than me, so I can't really fuck with her. But like David, I mean, he knows more than me too. But
also, I just also fully acknowledge the bad things my thrust did.
I mean, and to be fair though, like I respect Mighty Modus and the Nelia Finwë a lot. Like even with, again, I kind of overlook the fact that the oath and the effects of the oath for it, because I do respect the shit out of him, because he made the best of what he could with what he swore himself to, and kind of had to force himself to swear to, given his father and like the pressure from his father and the pressure of like all of his siblings. Like I can understand that. So like I tend to leave my Timo alone in that, because it's fucked up to what he had to go through, and I can acknowledge that. Like, as far as like as staunch of a Finwë Nola Finwë fan I am, like I acknowledge Mighty Molrus and Nelia Finwë as like a stand-up figure, despite the things he participated in, which he could
quite easily have pressed his claim to the throne and caused like a complete schism amongst the Noldor, and
Yeah.
you know, like basically like civil war or something between the Noldor, and he did everything he could to make the opposite happen.
Yeah.
To
he
reconcile them.
constantly tries to do the right thing because of the bondage to the oath. It unfortunately causes him to
Mhm.
wrong decisions, but he feels the weight of his guilt upon it.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's expressed that he feels that guilt upon it, I don't believe in adding to that. It's kind of like when addicts suffer with their addiction or succumb to their addiction. It's I'm not one to add on to the guilt that they feel because it's something that they succumb to. Like I don't believe that's healthy or that's right to do that when they already feel such a deep guilt about it. So who am I to add to that? And so I mean, I see the Oath of Feanado as similar in that manner, as far as it is kind of an addiction to the Silmarils and the oath that they're bound to, and the Doom of the Noldor.
Yeah, I think people see the oath as something that they're choosing to hold to, but they don't have a choice in it. Like the way Tolkien conveys it, the language he uses is very clear that the oath is like the oath sleeps and then is awakened. The oath is tormenting them. It is something beyond their own power to deal with because of the manner in which they swore it. And Maedhros Nelio, he does as much as he can. Like he begs the Or to give him the Silmaril because he knows what he's going to have to do if they don't. And it happens, and it tears him apart, and that's why he so desperately tries to find those kids, and he can't. And then the same things happened at the Havens of Sirion, and he basically like begs them to just give up the Silmaril. And again, they don't do it. And I'm not going to blame Elwing for that, because that's another fucking thing I cannot stand, is the Elwing slander. But you know, it's like he does everything that is in his. It's everything that is in his power to not have to do those things, but at the end of the day, the oath will always win because of the nature of it. It's not something that they have control over. And I think they just go about it very differently. And Curufin and Caligom in Norgothrond, and as you know, Findorato says to Beren, as soon as they know, and I said about this earlier, as soon as they know that the Silmaril's involved, their oath awakens, and they start behaving shittily, and they start trying to do it in like amassing power. So they decide, right, if we get the combined forces of Norgothrond and Doriath under their command, then that is towards achieving the oath. And it corrupts them, and it corrupts some more than others in terms of the actions that they commit, but the oath does corrupt them because they can't fight it. They just they can't. It's beyond them. It's like, you know, the Iluvatar thing. It is beyond their ability to resist it.
I kind of like that the oath, like that specific oath, is the thing that moves the entirety of the stories of all of Middle Earth and Beleriand and Valinor, everything. Like that oath literally moves every single thing. Like there's nothing in the Legendarium that is not tied to that oath, and I kind of love that.
And like you see, like the knock-on effects that it has, to the point where in Lord of the Rings, when Elrond says to the Fellowship that he's not going to make them swear any oaths.
Yes.
And when you know Elrond's history, like he knows exactly the dangers of swearing oaths, and the fact that he's not going to hold anyone to make an oath. Exactly. He was orphaned because they're not actually dead, but you know what I mean, because of the oath, and then he saw how his then adopted dads suffered because of the oath. Like, he knows probably better than anybody alive
and that's
the
such
dangers of swearing an oath.
and that's the thing that Tolkien, I mean, even kind of circling back to like with Tolkien and like people wanting to paint it as such black and white things, is when you get to Maitimo and Makalaude, or Maithros and Maglor, is that it's a both and. They both kidnapped and both adopted.
Yeah.
Elrond, and Elros as their children, and it's both a positive and a negative. Like, yeah, it's horrible that what they did to the Havens of Sirion, but at the same time, it's also a type of mercy and a grace and a type of guilt and shame that they feel that they adopt them for, and that's the depth of the level. As like,
and their own grief as well, because they've just lost Ambarossa.
Yeah, they just lost their own like twin brothers, and like not only they lost the Ambarusa, but also like the guilt Maitimo would feel for, was it Alareth and the other son of Dior. Yeah. And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's like
I always imagined it feeling like he feels like he's seeing a ghost when he sees those kids. It's like, here is the two kids that I couldn't save last time, and he's like, and I think it's like, because the text talks more about Makalaude, but like, there's no way Maithros wasn't involved in it as well. But I always imagine it's like it takes him a bit more time, because he's kind of, I feel like he's just so done at this point. He's lost so much, and he's kind of like cut himself off a bit. And but with time, it's like he warms to these kids, and he does love these kids, and he helps Maglor raise them, but he never forgets Elurid and Elurine. And yeah, that there's that weird, strange duality of, these kids are orphaned because of you, but you love them and raise them well. And it's like, and I always find it interesting, as somebody who obviously loves Delio, is to think about him from the perspective of Elwing. And it's crazy, because from Elwing's perspective, he is the literal monster of her nightmares. And this is why I go fucking crazy when I see anybody who criticizes Elwing for abandoning her children, for being a bad mother. Like, what she went through as a child. Like, she was like 3 years old when that happened, where her entire family was slaughtered. She was the only one of her family that escaped as a little kid. And now she's there, and she's an adult now, and she's got kids of her own who no doubt remind her of her two brothers. And then suddenly, these monsters from her childhood, they're back. There they are again. And the absolute, like, the level of like PTSD and trauma that she must have been going through then, like, she has no reason to believe that her sons aren't already dead, because she will remember they killed her brothers. They were two little children just like her sons, and they died. Her dad died, her mother died. They killed them all. She has no reason to trust them when they say, we're holding them hostage, give us the Silmaril. And this is like, this thing is the reason her family died, and she can't give that up. She probably, does he say, she probably does believe her children are lost to her. And so when she jumps off that cliff, she doesn't know Ormor is going to save her. She jumps because she thinks she's lost everything. But
to be fair,
she's not.
How many times has almost saved anybody jumping off a cliff? Yeah.
Damn.
It's like she jumps thinking that my kids are dead, my entire family's dead. I don't even know if my husband's ever gonna come back. And these absolute nightmares, these people who have haunted her life, like, they are literal monsters to her, are here. She's gonna jump, and she's gonna take that with them. And seeing it, and there's some really good artworks as well of Elwing and Maedhros in them, and like it's wild to me to see them because obviously it is like so opposite of how I see him most of the time. But I think it's important that I look at him from that perspective as well, because that is part of who he is as well. Like he still did those things. He was still that monster to somebody, and it's still part of who he is. And I'm not going to ignore that because it's still part of him. And I think it's important that that is acknowledged. And it's also why I will go to bat for Elwing when people talk bullshit about her.
It's weird that you have to say go to bat for Elwing because, like, why would you ever need to defend Elwing? Like, she didn't do anything wrong.
You'd think, wouldn't you? But genuinely, it's another one of those things that over
Like,
the years I
literally,
have come
like, her
across so
home
much.
got fucking attacked.
Yeah.
And she went to go protect herself. And, like,
the amount of
and she
Elwing
became a
is a bad
bird.
mother.
Like, that's the
It's one of
story
the things
Elwing.
of like 5 years ago or something, I made a Tolkien discussion bingo card where it's like, if you were in a Tolkien like if you're on a Reddit page or a forum or whatever, these are the things that will come up time and time and time again, and one of them is Elwing is a bad mother. And I'm happy that it's something I actually haven't seen for a while now. It used to be quite common. I haven't seen it for a bit, so hopefully maybe perspectives are changing, or I'm just around people with, better views on things. Yeah.
And that's the thing though, because I think, like, obviously there's the joke element of, like, Erendil and Elwing and all that, which I get on the joke level of things, but then, like, at the same time, like, you bring up a very good point as far as the PTSD aspect that Elwing would be facing.
Yeah.
That, oh shit, I had twin brothers that lost their lives due to the acts of these Feanorians. These Feanorians are still around and they're back, and I have twin sons.
Yep.
Like, oh shit, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, that shit is like that's something I haven't really like thought about as deep until you just brought that up and like explained that. Like, I mean, I've always, and that's not to say I haven't had, I've never blamed Elwing for her acts or anything like that. I've joked about it, but it's never something that I've ever seriously like said, oh yeah, she's a bad mother or anything like that, because that's nonsense in my opinion. But to bring those added layers and that added depth to, especially in Tolkien, because a lot of Tolkien, there's a lot of what's, kind of like recapitulation or republication of events that happen throughout. We obviously see it with Elwes and Dikulo. We see it kind of playing out on the negative with Eol and Erisce. We see it in the positive with Beren and Luthien, as far as like those common themes and like that type of republication aspect. And so when you get to the point with Elwing and that aspect with twin brothers, twin sons, Feanorians coming, and like when there's a Cimmeril involved, like it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And it's like we were saying about, sorry, David.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
It's like we were saying about how seeing Elros and Elrond and how that would have been like to Maedhros, who had searched so desperately for those little boys, and how, like, he's like, okay, this time we do it right. So we know, the reader, we know that Maedhros desperately searched for Elored and Elurin, but Elwing doesn't know that.
Yeah.
All she knows is her brothers died.
Yeah.
So, and Maedhros was there, and Maglor, both of them were there, and the Ambarossa as well, because they were part of the attack on the Havens as well. But Maedhros is like the one in charge, so I focus more on him.
Depends on what time of writing it was, because one of them dies.
Okay, and Ambarossa at least is there.
By the way, Lee,
Whether
did you
it's Amberossa singular or Amberossa plural, there is an Amberossa.
Yeah.
By the way, Lee,
And that's the other reason
uh,
why I'm like, I will use Albertosa as far as like, because
It goes for both.
it gets messy, and I'd rather just speak generally at both of them.
But we should probably we're gonna end this this episode. Thank you both for being here. So Lee, where can people find you?
I'm Silmarillion on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. I think that's everywhere. Oh, YouTube as well. Sort of.
Okay. And David, where can people find you?
You can find me David the Noldo. That's DavidThenGoldo. You can find me basically Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Substack, and possibly sometime in the future YouTube. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, those are all the spaces you can find me at.
All right. Well, thank you both for being here on the maiden voyage. I really appreciate both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Have a good night.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Tolkien on Tap. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on any of my social medias. I'm on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at @the_Neej. Namarie.